You focused a lot on the skills of project management and how important they are. So I have two questions. Firstly, how would you direct us into getting these skills? Like, what are some of the things you did or experiences that you went through? And secondly, does a multimedia producer necessarily have to have skills linked to computer science? You mentioned like importance of knowing about different skills, but being good at one thing. Do you think a producer will always necessarily have to work on actually, putting...
No. That's again, great question. First of all, when you learn project management, or when you learn how to do these things, most of the time it only comes through doing it. So start like working in groups, working collaboratively. I'm sure you do that here, and like starting to understand how to navigate not only people's skills but their egos and the time it takes and etc. And project management, and that came from me working on those Robinson Crusoe projects and these other projects. Like it really just mostly comes from experience. But to your second point, absolutely not do you have to be involved with the computer side of things to do project management. Amy O'Leary, who I've spoken about several times already, she runs projects all the time, and she, while very familiar with computers and very bright, so she can pick things up quickly, has a background in narrative storytelling and audio. But she can come to me and say, hey, Gabe, like, I need an interactive. I don't know exactly what I want it to look like, but I need it to be able to do these things. And like just so it works just the same way as like I would go to a videographer and be like, okay, I can't assume to tell you the shot for shot what I want you to do, but like this is the story we're working on. I need you to craft a narrative around this. Like do that. Like so that same thing can happen either way. You can definitely have, but it is important that you know, like if you're asking somebody to do something, like they'll most likely do that in Flash, or they'll most likely need, if they're going to need a back-end server-side person, if they're going to need a database, like those are the kinds of things that you need to be familiar with at least enough that you can understand when they say like, well, this is going to take me an extra 2 weeks because you want me to have a database on the back end, and you say, well, that shouldn't maybe take you 2 weeks, like how about a week or something like that, like you have to be aware enough of their part. But no, you certainly don't have to be the computer scientist or anything. That said, it does work out well to be the computer scientist because in the end, I'm the only one who can put some of these things together, right? And that's, while sometimes a terrible position to be in, it can also be a very good position to be in because everybody knows that, like, well, none of it's going to happen in the end without this person. That said, Amy has no problem telling me what to do and having me work on a project for her.
Hi, my name's Colin. I'm also a student here. I was wondering, to what extent are you able to track the use of these interactives, both generally and specifically? And also, can you talk about, like, I'm assuming the growth that you've seen of them since you've been there?
Sure. Indeed, man. These guys all have great questions. We don't do as much tracking as we'd like. To tell you the truth, it's because of what I was talking about earlier, which is when you're working on these projects, like a lot of the time you barely have time to get it done. So like the idea of saying like how many people clicked this button or how many people did that, like while we really would want to know, we often run out of time. That said, we are doing it on several things, like audio slideshows. We keep track of how many people finish the slideshow, how many people get 3/4 of the way through, how many people click on the photo gallery. For things like the interactive map of murders, I know they track how many people click to the second, third, fourth tab. So for every single one, we're not doing it, no. But for a lot of like general things, we do it. And for our user testing group, they also give us feedback on site-wide things that are getting things. As far as the gain in popularity, yeah, it's exploded. I mean, like, but what I've been surprised with is how few people come through with the skills to do it. Like, I'm really excited for you all because I kind of thought that I might have been hitting it. I just got lucky. Like, there's nothing I did super special that made me end up at the New York Times, except for being born in 1981. Like, that was lucky. And so thanks to my folks. You did a great job. And I got in right at the right time. But it turns out that window is still really wide open. I had thought when I first joined up that by now that window would be pretty closed. And there would be people with, like, experience coming in to try to take those jobs. And that hasn't been the case. Like, the news industry, for whatever reason, is not a fast adopting industry. They do not move at speed. And I don't understand why it took them so long to like start doing the things they're doing, but it did. And a lot of news industries, like the Times, has like fully embraced it. And that's part of why I went to the Times. Like they were like, we're committed to integration. We're committed, like we will value you as a journalist. You're not just a hacker. You're not just a programmer. Like come in, be a journalist, participate. And so that's part. But there are a lot of news organizations who haven't become that open yet or anything like that. So it's really great time for you still to work on these skills. Develop one. My advice is develop one skill really well so that you can be like, I am the go-to person for X. But in addition, you have to at least have one secondary skill that you are adept at, that you are good at. You might not be the best at it, but you can take photos and cut some pretty mean audio. Or you can shoot video and also like know how to handle a still camera. Or you can build interactives and record audio. Like you need to at least have a two-pronged approach to these types of things. But it's not feasible to know everything the best. So you shouldn't worry about that kind of stuff. So while I have seen these grow in popularity, it hasn't been at the rate I've expected. And I think that that's because they're still looking to hire people like you all.